And we are live recording. I do believe so. Camera says we're recording. Very good. All right.
We have had to do a couple redos.
You'd think that we'd get better at this.
We'll come out with a bloopers edition at some point.
No, we won't. Because if I screw up, I delete it real quick. Okay, so welcome back to the Silver Bullet Podcast, guys. Today we are following through on something that we said we would do. We're going to answer some questions, client questions, user questions. Before we jump into these, a couple things I want you guys to know. One, if you guys have questions, anything you'd like a little bit of insight on, might not be the answer you want to hear, but we'll give you one with 100% transparency and a lot of honesty.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at that. We hurt feelings pretty regularly.
But we do it with love.
We do, because we care about you.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to get the point across, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So if you guys have questions you'd love to have answered or just get a little insight on, by all means, email them to me at my email address. I'll go ahead and put it on our social media pages just so you guys can send it to us. Colton at reclaim3.com. And we'll throw it back on here because we'll probably do at least one of these a month if we have the questions to do.
Yeah.
I was kind of overwhelmed with a lot of the questions that we have. Not overwhelmed in terms of like I don't know how to answer these, but like I was happy to hear that there's interaction. You know, people wanting to learn things.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, these are fun to do. So.
Yeah, and James doesn't have to worry about any notes. It's great.
I don't have my computer here.
Yeah, it's great. So essentially, all these questions we're keeping them anonymous. You know, I'm not going to tell anybody who's asking these questions, but instead, I guess when we answer these, we're trying to give you a little bit of understanding of how we would go about breaking down your situation and where we would start. Because a lot of people are like, I got questions on all kinds of things. They just don't know where to begin. You know?
Yeah, and this again, it comes from our experience dealing with these individuals. You know, we're not guessing, and if we don't know the answer, I know both of us are really good about digging in and doing some research and figuring some things out.
I'll tell you straight up that I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know,
right.
I'll tell you I don't know.
And
but I'll find out.
Good coach should tell you that. You know, if
thank you. That's nice of you to say.
It's I know it's something that I worked with some of our younger coaches over the last few years. Like if a client asks you something, don't tell them the wrong answer. Just say, hey, look, I don't know right now, but I'll get to it.
Yeah, there's no. I was prideful in that early on. Like I just wanted to fill the air with stuff that I knew, but it wasn't necessarily applicable to anybody in that room. It was just, you became a little bit more sought after when you could problem solve, not how much information do you have.
For sure.
So anyway, we're problem solving today. These are questions. And a lot of these questions come from some of our clientele here at Reclaim, but there are a couple people in here that actually submitted some questions, which I'm super happy about. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into them. Just so you know, James has not seen these questions yet, so these are going to go straight to him, fresh. Hopefully, we'll stump him a little bit.
Let's do it.
But they're good because I think they apply to a lot of people. I really do.
Yeah. Okay? The cool thing too with him saying that, there are areas that we might have a little bit of a different opinion on. And again, doesn't matter. Doesn't mean he's wrong. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. We just might handle a little bit different.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So first question. Yeah. Anyways, so first question here is on the lines of inflammation management. Okay. My food is really good. This has been confirmed by my coach. I don't consume sugar other than what is in the fruits that I eat. I've been working on getting good sleep. Even tried paleo reset. Don't see a whole lot of difference in the way that I feel, quote unquote. I had an accident way back when. I know that it's been an acute accident way back when that has caused a lot of my chronic inflammation, but I'm just trying to figure out how to decrease more inflammation in other areas. Please help. Now, I'm going to stay out of this one here for a minute because I know what I would say on this one, but I'm curious to hear how you would go about it.
Well, the first thing that jumps out is the line in there, I am working on my sleep. So does that mean that we're not getting a consistent amount of 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Just like one of the vlogs we did or podcast a few weeks ago, that has to be one of the most important things that an individual acquires some consistency.
That was last week.
Yeah, last week. Everything's running together right now.
Yeah.
But so if there is not a high quality amount of sleep, which will allow for recovery, that's still the place that I'm going to continue to refer back to. Now, if they say, well, look, I've been consistently getting 8 hours of sleep for the last 30 days. All right. In my experience, whether it be with hormone coaching or doing some nutrition coaching, there might be a little bit more investigation that we need to have take place now. So what is causing this inflammation? Whether you do that through some kind of questionnaire or they have some kind of, microbiome testing done. So digestive, gut, food, whatever, but we test so we don't have to guess. We want to know what's going on. So then as a coach, we can make a better, not prescription, but just roadmap plan.
Sure. I think I'm going to try to stay very neutral on this because I do know the person here and the situation at hand. But essentially, I look at it as, okay, so just looking at the question, we are working on sleep, which would tell me that we've already identified that it's a problem, right? Which means that some progress has clearly been made or a roadmap has been made out for there. Now we're just searching for other areas that can help aid in inflammation management. Specifically, she said in joints. Okay, so you think about anybody who has joint pain. What's usually some of the areas of joint pain that they have? Knee. And this is speculation, but
shoulder, ankle.
Yeah, I usually think fingers, wrists, elbows, stuff like that. A little bit smaller joints, but nonetheless, joints themselves. They're
paws.
Yeah, so. You got banana hands. You got big old hands. So essentially, you look at some of these smaller joints. A lot of people don't realize that when you have joint pain, it's not necessarily always because of heavy lifting or because of movement. It's actually usually the reverse. Yeah. It's usually the lack thereof. Okay, so I know a little bit unrelated. There was somebody who was having some chronic elbow pain. Decided that he's like, okay, my elbow hurts. I'm not going to do anything with it for a month. Tried it out a month later, still hurt.
Yeah.
I'm going to do anything with it for 2 months.
Yeah.
Tried it out 2 months later, still hurt.
Yeah.
What ended up being the culprit, the bad thing is most people have the, if it hurts to bend, don't bend it philosophy, which can make sense. But if it still hurts after a prolonged rest period, you probably need to stop resting it. There's probably something that needs to happen as far as challenging the joint to adapt.
Yeah.
I'm not saying make things more injured, but you have to have a more creative game plan. Why is the elbow hurting?
Yeah. Rest is good. But what you're probably getting to, let's get that bicep a little more loose and get some tricep strength going.
Yeah, let's identify what's causing the pain. So, that's one thing I think of when you're talking about joint inflammation, is make sure that you're not, over resting in an area that is, prone to pain. Most people are like, my back, so I don't like deadlifting because of my back. Your back is comprised of a lot of joints. Okay, very common one being the SI joint. Guess what? It's a joint that needs compression and a joint that needs structure. It needs challenge.
Yeah.
Guess what? It'll always be weak if you just let it rest on deadlift days.
I think, too, while we're on this subject, so many individuals, sleep is a great thing, and I used to be guilty of this as well. But we have to, where do we spend a lot of our time? We spend a lot of time at work. We should spend a lot of time in our beds. And if you're an individual that maybe you are able to be upright, you spend a lot of time in your shoes. How's your mattress? You might sleep 8 or 9 hours a night, but what does your position look like? Are you just making something junk because of the way that you're laying? What's your footwear look like? What does your posture look like throughout the day? And maybe you're sitting in a car all the time. Sometimes the issue is more because of a position that you are in for an extended period of time. It has nothing to do with the workout. You just feel it in the workout.
Yeah, and I love looking at people's shoes. Personally, I hate it when people always walk into the gym with a new pair of shoes every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
you're not helping yourself unless it's like the exact same pair of shoes and your body's getting, comfortable with that minimal, ability to stabilize. Like, look, the house is only as strong as the foundation. If your feet suck, there's a good chance that your ankle, your knee, your hip, everything's moving up the chain. Okay. So I love looking at people, just looking at the wear on people's shoes, inside and outside. You know what I mean? Look at how the body's wearing. You're going to tell a lot about how that person's posture is, how they move, and that can be an identifiable factor as well. But back to the inflammation management thing here. She mentioned that there was I don't consume foods that are bad. This is known by the coach. I also don't the only real sugar that she consumes is present in the fruit, and that's nature's best sugar you can consume. I think where a lot of people really start to forget that there is an inflammation response in things that we ingest is alcohol. Well said. It's not one we always want to go to.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind here. Okay. I think it was Travis Zipper that said that one drink of alcohol, whether it's beer or hard liquor or whatnot, has about the same effect of your blood sugar as a can of Coke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, consider that. That a rapid blood sugar spike, and now your body has to essentially utilize that or store it away as fatty tissue, and then it has to be processed through the kidneys, filtrated out, get rid of all the toxins. Huge inflammation response, just from that in itself. Like, yeah, I get it. I'm all about you relaxing on the weekends, but there's a chance that for a lot of us, especially during COVID time here, you know what I mean? Everybody, the alcohol sales were like booming.
Yeah.
Put it down and let your body heal.
We can make that correlation just because we have a lot of experience this time of year. We do. I feel like we see more joint issues in the summertime just because of alcohol.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way.
And lack of water.
And vitamin D and all that stuff. So definitely a couple things to think about as far as if you're trying to manage a lot of inflammation, if it's something you have identified, okay, and this person's been here for a while. She understands the fitness realm, so she's getting a lot more specific with some of her training. Other people are just like, hey, how do I stop hurting?
Yeah.
Hers a little bit more concentrated. So it was a good question, and I was glad to get obviously your take on it because that helps me out. All right, next question. Okay, feel like I push myself pretty hard in the gym, but struggle choosing whether or not to go heavier and finish the workout slower or lift lighter and get through the workout quicker. Feel like it's usually pretty rushed, so maybe I could go heavier in weight, but not quite as fast paced. Am I defeating my own goal unknowingly? This is common. I get this question a lot.
Paralysis of analysis.
Really, yeah. You're basically putting yourself into a hole of you're not confident that the way you're going with the workout is what you really want. So, I mean, one, you have to go back and identify what your goal is.
Amen. Yeah. Identify what do you want?
Right. Like, what do you want? Yeah. So keep in mind, if you have a workout program, hopefully that workout is geared towards the things that you want, right? But if you're limited to this, we can apply this to anybody. You're limited to an hour, 45 minutes, and you have a workout to do. How do you know how to go about that workout? Do you apply intensity to maybe some of the major lifts at the beginning, and then just when you run out of time, you run out of time? Or do you lighten it up and just try to get all of the work done and limit yourself? What do you think?
This is a loaded question.
It's a good question.
There's so much at play here. So I guess I would answer it if I were speaking directly to this person, and I would just ask just frankly, what do you want to achieve? Is your goal to have an aesthetic response in the long term or even in the short term, or are you just more focused on general fitness? And if you're more just wanting to acquire health, to feel good, to go through the movements, get some blood flowing, maintain muscle mass, don't worry so much about the competitive aspect of it. I understand
going heavy.
Yeah.
Right.
That when we're, especially in a group setting, that's difficult. But the whole that FOMO, fear of missing out, if you see others lifting heavy, hopefully they are working towards their specific goal.
If you see other people finished early,
Yeah.
you think that, oh, I wasted too much time doing this and I didn't achieve what they did. It's not the same.
Right.
And it never will be.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan, and I will always preach for most goals that you have out there, unless your goal, essentially, just like you said, is to feel better, create movement and just blood flow and just feel better when you walk out than when you walked in. Unless your goal is that. So if your goal is to lose body fat, your goal is to get stronger, your goal is to push your mental envelope, you need to focus on the heavy stuff. You need to focus on the intensity of where you can apply intensity.
Yeah.
Okay. Volume is great. At the end of the day, if the intensity stays really high and you complete the volume, you've created more stress for your body to recover from, which is not always a bad thing.
No.
But you have to go into RPE a little bit. You have to understand your rate of perceived exertion. That's essentially how you feel your body's going to fatigue that day. Guess what? Increasing the volume is going to be harder to recover from than doing those heavy, intense, small sets.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So then you can take that down that rabbit hole as far as how can you recover? Are you somebody who recovers really well? In which case, high intensity, pedal to the metal, get it all done. However you got to do it. Otherwise, you're horrible at recovering. Take your time.
Yeah. I think in the fitness realm as a whole, I know I used to do a very poor job of educating on this, and we're getting better at it, just the whole culture itself. But we have to identify two things early on. Number one, exercise doesn't have to be punishment. You're not coming in here to punish yourself for the decisions you made. Change your decisions and then enjoy this aspect of it. And then the other part of it is when you're coming in here and you're training, all right, the flip side of that then is once you get into this comfort zone, and you no longer start seeing results, guess what? We got to get out of that comfort zone. So that's where assessments and evaluations and good coaching come into play.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I think having a coach is something that's just invaluable for most people. Doesn't matter who it is, but you need a coach. And not somebody who's going to cheerlead you through things.
No.
We got at this point something else. You're going to have somebody who can have those start conversations with you as far as helping you make sense of things. Because at the end of the day, if you're paying me for a result,
right,
me cheering you on is not going to provide that result.
No.
Me helping you identify causes and reactions and adaptations, that will provide a result. So yes, it has a lot of different, it is kind of a loaded question, but it is a good question because a lot of people think about that, especially in a group setting. Like, okay, I have an hour to work. This coach wrote all this workout on the board and I can't get it all done. So should I go lighter and finish it? Or should I go heavy and try to get what I can done within that allotted time? I will always lean towards going heavy.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb should be for anyone, how heavy can you lift with perfect technique?
Well, yes.
Perfect for you.
That's yes. Obviously, don't just go hell bent and hurt your. I figured
we don't know who's
that was
here.
Understood. Okay, my fault. Yes, obviously, you have to take in consideration your ability to perform said movements.
Yeah. Hey, if we hadn't seen it, look, we've had guys come in here for free workouts, and we'll be doing I remember a specific bench press workout in here, and this guy was like, yeah, I think I can do that. I can keep up with you. And I'm like, just thinking in my head, like, you're not going to keep up with it. Whatever, I'm going to watch this. It's going to be fun. And after about 2 reps, that bar just buried on his chest. And I think it's okay for people to go through that as long as we're doing it in a safe way, because they kind of need to understand, okay, either the ego's a little too high or we got some stuff to learn. You know?
So a lot of variables in that question, but good question nonetheless. I always say stay heavier. If you don't get it all done, I'm fine with that. You probably have a better chance of recovering and getting more useful hormone response and everything from what you just did with me with that mindset rather than just blowing through it. 100%.
And just if you feel like you're struggling with that question every single time you come in here to work out, like, you really probably haven't identified your goal that well.
Right.
Like, just get in here and take action.
Well, it's either that or your coach has not verified what you are doing is in fact the thing you need to be doing to reach your goal. You might have your goal. but you just might not be getting any validation that that's exactly what you need to do.
This is a great question. I think, though, in the past we've also seen, and we're seeing a little bit of it right now too, people want to be told what to do.
Sure.
And we've kind of almost stopped doing that. Like, look, you need to own your decision, and once you own it, I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you what to do.
No, I'm here to help the people that want to be helped.
Yeah.
All right, so good question. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, since early spring, skin has been terrible. Eczema and psoriasis, not everywhere but patchy, quoted kind of like alligator skin. I currently use 2 topical steroids, which can help with the itching, but once I stop taking them, skin flares right back up. So according to what I've read online, it's either a stress response or I need to change my diet, ? No gluten, no dairy, no red meat. Really? Come on, I'm not just eating nuts and berries. All right, any thoughts?
I want to answer this and do a sidestep around the topical the steroid thing, because look, we'll have people that listen to this, watch it, and they don't agree with my stance, whatever. Okay, if I'm specifically working with this person, and let's say they're doing some nutrition coaching with me, I want to identify, all right, why are we taking this topical cream? Is it to just deal with the symptom of what is going on? Like, are there some things there we want to reduce? Or do you have the mindset that you want to actually try to figure this out so it completely goes away so that you no longer need that?
Sure.
Because if that person just wants to put the stuff on to feel better, I probably can't help them out. But if they're willing to pursue the other, I'm going to say, let's quit using it. Sure. Okay. And now let's start to work on the food.
I think it's good to touch on, the maybe not, I don't want to quote it as the sole purpose of a steroid, but it's meant to help your body heal. The steroid doesn't heal what the problem is.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to knock it dormant so that your body has a chance kind of like to catch up and heal itself. So regardless, your body is still trying to heal.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, everyone, we've talked about this with lectures before. Like, the reason that guys who still do the work with steroids, whether it be through strength training or bodybuilding, they can push themselves at a much quicker rate back in the facility because it just recovers. Yeah.
And so yeah, perfect. Okay, good analogy. So, your body's still trying to heal.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily identifying what the culprit of the problem is, right? Band-Aid on the symptom.
Yeah.
But this is very common, okay? Skin issues are very, very common, especially I see more with females than I do with males, but it's an inflammation response associated with the gut.
Yeah.
Like, I would say 90% of the time, that's usually what's going on. And that is where I undoubtedly would start with somebody.
Yeah.
If skin irritations were something that were coming up.
And this is there's a lot of
podcasts ago, I think.
Amazing research about this coming out. And my wife and I, we explore this area a little bit more because at times she does have some skin issues, and with 3 children, 3 little boys, it's stuff that we want to kind of stay ahead of the curve on, just to try to curb that for them if any way possible. And one thing that I know that they're studying a lot on, and I cannot give a ton of insight on this, but a mother's diet, all right, just being real with everybody, and what they consume during that, development of a child, of a baby, you're passing a lot of that on, so if there are some specific issues or lack of nutrients or whatever, you could be essentially born kind of already with some conditions that you might have with poor food choices.
I mean, like I said, I don't have the information to cite that on here, but just think about that. That makes sense. We don't all just have jacked up bodies that create perfect little human beings that are just fresh slate. Like, it is transformed of your genetic makeup. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be people that'll be up in arms about that, but whatever. But yeah, so obviously, usually you have skin issues associated with the gut. I have a perfect example for you. I had a family relative. I won't tell you exactly who it is because I don't want everybody to know exactly what I'm talking about here. But essentially came to me at one point last year, I believe, has had acne ever since she was in high school, like ever since. And she is now 26 years old, I believe. gone through 2 pregnancies, 2 boys, always had irritations, always had really bad breakouts, okay? Always. I challenged her to do a paleo reset, and I said document it. Document every little bit of it. Paleo reset's 30 days. It's elimination of specific foods, but it's meant to do what steroids do. If you think about it, it is meant to allow your body to heal.
Yeah, we're amplifying the healing process.
Exactly. So went through the paleo reset and actually stopped taking her medication for a while she was doing it. And the skin cleared up. And she was flourishing, felt great. Obviously, a great side effect of that was she started to lose body fat around her midsection. But we weren't focusing on that. We were just trying to make her skin clearer. A paleo reset did it. And she was very strict on it. And it provided awesome results. And the sole understanding of paleo reset is just to heal the gut.
Right.
That's it. So I 100%, if you're somebody who's suffering from skin issues, take a really good look at your quality of food, what you consume, not just the amount. Obviously, exercise is really good. Your sleep is going to be very important as far as how you're allowing your digestive system to rest. But we're also deep diving, trying to figure out what's the root cause of my issue here.
Yeah. And again, like we talked about earlier, not just what you eat and chew. What are you drinking? What all goes into the body? Even like your skincare products.
Sure.
Your skin is one of the first layers of defense for the body, and anything topically you're putting on that, like not just even talking about the steroid for relief, but any kind of lotion or whatever, and then even the things that you clean with. I mean, this question again is, there's a lot of different ways you could go about it, but yeah, the digestive system has to be robust and healthy, and the skin issues will probably go away. Yeah,
it's undoubtedly where I would start for sure. So definitely a good question. I kind of like that one too, because everybody has probably experienced it at some point and is having some skin irritation. So, moving on.
Do you go back through, I like going to old pictures of myself, like in high school or in college, and being like, man, like what was that guy eating?
Sure.
And his pizza and strombolis and pasta and whatever. But yeah, acne was more of an issue.
For sure.
Let's move on.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't understand how much of a connection your gut has to your skin, or your gut has to anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Got to heal your body in the inside out. Physiologically, it's got to be sound for your physical to look exactly what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay? You want to be a perfect human being on the outside, you got to be perfect on the inside.
Yeah.
Perfect's not achievable, but you get what I'm trying to convey. All right, next question. I hear you always saying that women fail to consume the proper amount of protein. What is the design amount for women who are trying to lose body fat, and why can't I get that much? So,
all of it.
A couple good things there. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'll answer the first portion of it. Ideally, women trying to lose body fat, you're essentially trying to recover your best of your ability. That's it. Okay, so if you're trying to lose body fat, obviously you're trying to make sure that your body's prepared to handle the next day's stimulus. So somewhere in between 0.7 to 0.9 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So that means if you're somebody who weighs 145 pounds, if you're on the upper end of that, you need to be consuming 130 grams of protein. And the follow-up part of this question is, why can't I get that much? That's simple. You eat too much fat.
Yep.
That is the common thing that I see.
Loving those avocados.
Don't get me wrong. Like, fat has its place. It is very good for you as a macronutrient, transporting micronutrients, and for some people who are like, I just need to be on the high-fat diet. It's good. It's great. It's awesome. Unless you're in a full-blown state of ketosis and you are consistently, you might not find favor in it. Honestly, and it's because your protein consumption is too low.
Yeah,
for sure. This is where I'm not a huge fan of promoting low-fat options, but if you're somebody who, I've implemented it with plenty of people, doing some macronutrient coaching as far as a design template specifically for them, where we had to use that as an option. Just because, let's say you have a freezer beef at home and it's fatty, like, you're not going to go buy all new meat. But guess what? I can change some of the cheaper things that you have in your fridge, and I can lessen the amount of fat you consume. So that way, here's the thing, fat is satiating. If you consume a lot of fat, you're not eating a lot of protein.
Right.
Because protein's also satiating. That's usually the number one thing that I see with people. So, short answer, 0.7, 0.9 because you eat too much fat. Moving on. That was a good one.
Were there two parts of that?
What is a design amount for women who are trying to lose body fat, and why can't I get that much?
Gotcha. You answered both.
Got it.
Okay.
I struggle with understanding.
Hold on. Protein shakes. What do you think about them?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
If they can help.
That's an easy way to get it in if you need more protein, but keeping the fat low.
Yes. So you have to just be very cognizant about the nutrition label on the fat or on the protein. So ideally, if I'm consuming a protein shake, I want somewhere along the lines of 20 to 25 grams of protein per serving. Limited amount of carbohydrates, less than 5 grams probably. That'd be ideal. Don't confuse that with people who have recovery shakes. Recovery protein shakes is how they'll basically say you got to drink your protein right after your workout. They're more on the flip side of that. They're about 2 to 1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein. So it'll be more like 21 grams of protein, only like 7 grams of, or 21 grams of carbs and 7 grams of protein.
Yeah.
That's not a protein shake.
No.
That's a recovery shake. Specific times for both of those.
That's another podcast.
We'll have to get into that one. That's a fun one to talk about. So yes, use them if they help, but don't just rely on them. You need food. Right. Best form of electrolytes. This is a simple question.
Not Gatorade.
So I think I can't remember who sent this one in, but this might have been prompted by me, just because I've been hounding people the past 2 weeks about drinking water. If you're coming working out with me, you better fill your 16-ounce bottle up at least twice. You know what I mean? Like, it is the quickest way to make sure that you are sore as hell the next day. Keep in mind, sore is not a sign of a good workout.
Absolutely
It's a sign of poor recovery.
Right.
Okay?
Or a new program.
Or, yes, obviously a new stimulus your body's not accustomed to, in which case, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
If you've been doing this for 6 months and you're really sore one day, probably a good chance you didn't recover well.
Right.
So electrolytes, best form of electrolytes that I know of is salt.
Yeah.
So think about
salt isn't bad.
Yeah, you gotta think about that. And I talked to somebody about this the other day. They're like, I don't salt any of my food. I was like, why not? And they're like, well, because it's bad for you. I was like, you are literally like been working out for 15 years, you're 18% body fat, you can do this up and down without problem, and you're not salting your food at all, and yet you're wondering why you're having a hard time, consuming the amount of water you need. That's where I'd start. And I'm not telling you to just down tablespoons of salt in your mouth. I'm just saying salt your food a little bit. It's the best form of natural electrolyte that you can consume. Here's the reason why I have beef with like sports drinks. Okay, not specifically the one that you referenced because I don't want them to kick us off here. Sports drinks have both salt in form of sodium, and sugar in them in the form of carbohydrates. Okay, they are for physical activity recovery. When your body is physically depleted, it is lacking a specific macronutrient. Carbs.
Right.
Okay. Guess what sugar is? It's carbs. It is meant to quote unquote replenish. That is their tagline. It's to replenish you. But also, guess what? There's a salt in it to be a natural electrolyte, so that way your body can hydrate. Oh, boom. There's the next tagline. Hydrate. Here's the problem. If you're drinking that and you are not either of those two things, either extremely depleted or salt deficient, guess what? You're getting fat.
For sure.
That's about the only thing that I can say about that. Okay?
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. It has its place.
Yeah.
But for most people, it doesn't.
Yeah. The best thing it's a pretty easy thing to solve. Just lightly salt your food with a quality, a legit source, sea salt, Himalayan salt, whatever.
I use the
more
Himalayan, the
even like
Himalayan.
using there's nothing wrong with using iodized salt. Throw it on there, and make sure you're just drinking water consistently throughout the day.
Yeah, the best way to hydrate is to drink water.
Yeah.
No, don't let anybody else lie to you.
When you feel dehydrated, you've lost the battle already.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
You're dehydrated. Good question. I like that one. Why do many people have to gain weight before they quote unquote lose weight? Okay, I have a feeling this is directed at me because I know.
I wish I had
that
that business card we have now with the in-body scan pictures on it. Maybe we can post a picture of it.
Here is what. So essentially, here's what, and this is more prominent in women. Women tend to be under eaters, right? Compared to men who are trying to lose body fat. For men, mostly it's like, hey, I literally need you to put the fork down and we'll go into your caloric deficit. Females tend to be a little trickier. Usually they've been in a caloric deficit for such a long time that they've become metabolically adapted to a set amount of calories.
Yeah.
This is why I poke fun at people who only consume 500 calories a day and smell lemon wedges and claim that they're going to lose weight, but yet they never do. The body's finding a way to utilize those 500 calories, and it's finding the calories elsewhere in order to maintain what they need. So everybody, whether you know it or not, has something called a basal metabolic rate. Okay, this is essentially the calories that your body requires on a daily basis if you were to do nothing but sit on the couch and watch TV.
Yeah.
Okay, your body needs this amount of calories, and it's factored off of something called the Harris-Benedict equation. Okay, and it's factoring lean muscle tissue and water and obviously skeletal tissue and all this stuff, and it comes up with a pretty accurate equation as far as how many calories you need. Essentially, if you, God forbid, were ever in a coma, this is how they would figure out how many calories to essentially pump into your system.
Yeah, it would keep me alive.
Exactly, right? So for most females, okay, their basal metabolic rate, they are consistently consuming somewhere between 300 and 400 calories under that. Like that's what I personally see.
It's bad.
Okay, so take for instance, let's say that based on my equation, your body needs 1,400 calories. Like it is more common for me to see you only eating 1,000 to 1,100 calories and expecting to lose weight because, hey, I'm in a deficit. But you've been in that deficit for how many months and years, and also like your body physically will not do anything.
Yeah.
It is sitting there scavenging muscle tissue. You're retaining body fat, and you're not getting anywhere. So what? And this is not even considering if you work out.
Yeah.
So like you have your basal metabolic rate, like let's say it's 1,500 calories. If you work out, you have to take that by a multiplier, an activity multiplier. So you say that you work out 3 times a week or something. Or you have a stressful job, or you have a very active job.
Anyone that wants to know why nutrition coaching is just being real, a more expensive or a higher investment, there's a ton of work that goes into it. But
so essentially,
play on.
so you have the 1,500 calories, and let's say you work out, 3 days a week, and you have to take that by a multiplier of like anywhere from 1.2 to 1.9. 1.9 is your 5 days a week CrossFitter, 2 times a day, and 1.2 would be the guy that does nothing, walks every once in a while.
I'm like the 1.2.
So like you take that, somewhere around 1.4. Let's just, I got a calculator. We got stuff here. Let's just say 1,500 times 1.4, 2,100 calories. 2,100 calories. That means if you wanted to maintain your body weight, your body needs 2,100 calories.
So if I don't eat that, what happens?
Your body goes catabolic.
Right.
And it stays catabolic. And it starts to break down muscle tissue in order to essentially make up the calories that you're not giving it. So anyways, back to the square one here. We determine that your body needs 1,500 calories and you're not consuming anywhere close to that. The first thing that I need you to do is learn how to start eating more. And it's not all at one time. It's usually impossible to do that. Like your digestive system just literally couldn't handle that much. It's not used to it. But you start increasing by 100 to 150 to 200 calories on a daily basis, and all of a sudden your body's like, holy crap, we're in a surplus. Keep in mind, it's used to only consuming 1,000.
Yeah.
And so when your body gets into a surplus, guess what happens? You tend to put on a couple pounds. Okay? And that starts to freak people out, and women especially, and I get it. I do. But let me tell you, everybody that I've ever put on a reverse diet has lost weight.
Yeah.
And lost more than where they originally started. And it's because essentially we got to the BMR, we got to the total daily energy expenditure number as far as this is the calories that my body needs. And when I say what it needs, this is what it needs to heal. Okay? All of a sudden started making better use of the calories that it had. It had, it increased your ability to burn calories at rest. The thermic effect of feeding increased, which essentially calories that you burn while you digest.
The body is so much more efficient when it is lean and it has muscle, and you eat to preserve the muscle and you train to preserve the muscle.
Absolutely.
Once we become catabolic and we don't consume enough food, you're just like that post you put out this week. We're weak and fragile.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, not everybody has to gain weight in order to lose weight. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of people end up doing exactly that. They have to gain, and when I say gain weight, like they gain a couple pounds, maybe. I think the person that I had referenced the other day on social media, like maybe 3 or 4 pounds. Didn't have to go buy a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah.
But then she ended up losing 7% of body fat and maintaining her original weight. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's not always that case, but sometimes it is. And it's going to have to take somebody to really connect the dots for you to understand that and kind of talk you off the ledge. Like, my phone rang a couple times just randomly and people were losing their mind, like, scales going up. And I'm like, I know, but how do you feel? And they're like, I feel great. I'm like, well, we got nothing to talk about.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a good question. It's not always going to happen, but it is something that can happen if it is needed, if the body needs the more calories. Okay, moving on. What is the biggest supplement to avoid if you're somebody trying to lose body fat? What is it? Yes. Okay, so supplements to avoid if you're trying to lose body fat.
Caffeine.
Ooh, you just broke a lot of hearts. Why?
Well, usually, if an individual is taking caffeine, they're going to use it as a stimulant. That's what it's for. So whether they're using that for pre-workout, whatever. But in time, if you abuse that drug, caffeine, all right, you are also, along with that, going to abuse adrenaline, epinephrine, and then cortisol will be dysregulated. It's not going to function as it needs to, and now it's going to be extremely difficult for you to decrease body fat because you're constantly sending out a stress signal when you consume that drug.
Is it fair to say that caffeine puts you in more of a fight or flight state?
For sure.
Okay, so if you want to stop being in fight or flight and you want to access more of your parasympathetic nervous system, the one where it's rest and digest and chill,
right,
which we all need to be in a hell of a lot more often. Put down
I love caffeine.
Yeah, I do too, and I abuse the crap out of it. I'm not trying to lose body fat, so that's my only thing there. I'm just trying to get my legs good. So, anywho, so that's an awesome question. I would say, biggest supplements to avoid. I don't know that I would change what James said. I think caffeine is probably the biggest one that I know about.
Well, it affects cortisol, and then it's going to indirectly affect your sleep. It's going to suppress your appetite. So all of the things that, just like the question before, that you're wanting to, sorry guys.
What'd you do?
Achieve. There we go. You can't because of this thing that you're taking to try to help you reach your goal, which is actually just pushing your goal further away.
Right. No, I would 100% say caffeine. Like, I could go into the fat burners and the ketones and all this, raspberry ketones, all that crap.
If any product says fat burn on it, it's a waste of money.
Just know that there are like 3 supplements that have been clinically tested and proven to work, and it's caffeine, whey protein, and creatine. That's it. Like, that's it. Everything else is ahead of the science.
Yeah.
And that says something because we sell 5 products. So
yeah.
just know we're being transparent. Okay, moving on. How to heal minor acute injuries. Okay, so, and that's all the question says, how to heal minor acute injuries. So the first thing, I think we need to identify what acute injury is. Acute injury means it's something that happened. Let's use your elbow, for example. Elbow hurts, but you can 100% identify what caused the hurt of your elbow, whether that was a lift or a fall or
smacked it on the wall.
Something, you know what I mean? That's an acute injury.
Yeah.
And the acute inflammation response is going to be to go to that site, send the white blood cells, send the cytokines, all that stuff, and start to repair the area, right? Okay, so there's your acute injury. The best way to heal them. Once again, I think I might have spurred this question on based on some things that we talked about as far as people who sprain their ankles. What were we all told in football to do if you sprained your ankle? Wrap that puppy in ice, rest, ice, compression, elevation. And there's a ton of people who still do that.
Yeah.
The problem is you're managing pain, you're not healing the issue, right? The biggest thing to know is that inflammation is needed. Like when your ankle swells or your elbow swells or
speeds
whatever,
up recovery.
You are sending stuff to the area to heal. Okay, it's not just going there because there's nowhere else to go. It's sending white blood cells. It's sending all of your healing properties that you need. The only time where ice can become important is if you really have a how did Dr. Horschig reference that? It's not an inflammation issue, it's an inflammation evacuation issue. Okay, so if you're not evacuating inflammation, like that's when you would need ice.
Right.
Otherwise, you need inflammation to go to that area. So from there, then you really start to look at, okay, what are the things that control my inflammation response? Because if they're not sound, I'm probably looking at a longer recovery. Like if you want the ability to heal really quick, it's going to start with your gut.
Yeah.
Don't eat crap. Don't drink alcohol. Get good sleep.
Sleep and fast.
Seriously.
You'll be fixed pretty quickly.
Fast for sure. That's actually a really good one. Never thought about that. Honestly, healing minor acute injuries, like, look, it's very a lot of variables there. Tons of variables. The biggest thing to know is that you are capable of healing that.
Yeah.
If you believe you are. There's no ibuprofen in the world that's going to heal it. Once
Sure.
again, you're treating a symptom. You're not treating the issue.
Like, look at an animal. I'll use our dog for reference here. Sophie, she's a Newfoundland.
She's a big dog.
She's getting older. She's having some hip issues, and like if we take her on a long walk or we're out like walking through the woods or whatever. Like if she'll come back in that evening, she may not eat that night and potentially even the next day. And it has nothing to do with that she's not hungry. She knows that, hey, I just need to let everything chill out for a little while, instinctively to rid inflammation. You know,
Think about
animals are great about that.
What do you crave when you're sick? Eating.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You don't crave anything.
Right.
You might crave
Someone's like,
broth.
you really need to eat this. I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat anything right now.
Dude, your body is smarter than you are.
Yeah.
It will always be smarter than you are. Okay? I don't have any further to go about that. Just make that comparison. Like, what do you eat when you're sick and you're trying to heal? Nothing.
Ice cubes.
Yeah, ice cube. Well, yeah, and like broth and whatnot. Like, but broth has really good healing properties if it's good stuff. So like, it's honestly an ancient thing that people use for healing medication, right? So your body is smarter than you are.
Yeah.
Don't try to push things that it doesn't need or doesn't want. So, okay, we got one more question and we'll wrap this puppy up for today. Best way to recover sore muscles from working out. Okay.
Work out the next day.
In short, yes, you need to move. The worst thing to do is to cease movement in effort to heal muscles or joints. Is literally the worst thing you could do. When you move, you create blood flow, right? Muscles become warm. They become a little bit more elastic. When they become warm, the blood flow going to them is hopefully carrying good working nutrients and healing opportunity. Joints specifically, we kind of talked on joints a little bit earlier. Like, they need that exchange of synovial fluid. Like, when there's stress response, you have... Oh man, I'd be saying wrong if I could remember what the actual mechanism is. But anyway, so like the fluid in the joints is essentially recreated. What's the word I'm looking for? Essentially, it's kind of like breaking down muscle tissue. You're just constantly repairing and breaking down, break down. The same thing still kind of happens in your joints, and the synovial fluid that you have has a lot of those healing properties in it. So like, the worst thing you could do if your elbow hurts is to stop moving your elbow.
Right.
You know what I mean? The worst thing you could do if your quads hurt is to stop doing anything with the legs.
We're talking about soreness, not an injury, just so people know.
Oh, yes. This is soreness, you know what I mean? So you really have to understand that movement will create your healing opportunity better than sitting on the couch or in bed.
I will speak into this. As long as you have a good program, good coaches, wherever you find that, like whether you split it up, push, pull, or you're rotating up or lower, if you're just getting on there and you're like cranking out arm workouts 7 days a week in a row, you're probably going to eventually have some issues.
Yeah. And once again, we'll get into a programming exercise podcast, and that'll be fun. Probably have to do 2 parts.
Yeah.
But Yeah, soreness should not be an indicator of a good workout. It really isn't. It's an indicator of improper recovery. Now, when you have that new stimulus that you've never had before, or it's been a long time since you've had it, say you just started a new program with new rep schemes, new movements, you're going to be sore from that, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean your recovery is poor. It's that your body just wasn't able to handle that very well, as far as it wasn't prepared for it, right? But if you go 6 weeks, 8 weeks into doing that same program or working in the same methodology, and you're still having this issue, there's a chance your recovery is very, very, very poor. In which case, what are some ways that you can promote active recovery? Well, the biggest thing is to be active. You can't be stationary. You can't do active recovery sitting on your butt. Right?
If you come in and train intensely for an hour and a half, but then the rest of your day you just sit and chill and watch Netflix, you're going to be sore.
Neat activity.
Go cut some trees down.
NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? Essentially, what you can do to burn calories without physically exercising. You know what I mean? Go play with your kids. Go garden. Go whatever. Play golf is neat if you're not riding around on the cart. So be active. That's the easiest way to heal sore muscles.
For sure.
And obviously get good sleep.
Yeah.
If you're sleeping like crap, your muscles are going to be sore.
Yeah.
My glutes hurt really bad.
And
I thought I slept pretty good last night. So maybe I did.
Last night.
Oh, well, that's good. So that was fun. I like, that time passed really quick. Holy cow. That was fun, though. Really appreciate you guys' questions. Hope they helped out a little bit. We'd love to continue diving into people's questions here. We're getting close to August, which we're going to start having some guests on our show, our podcast, and we're going to start essentially breaking down, kind of like we're doing with these questions, their scenario of where they started, where they went, why they went there, and what's happening from it. Because there's a lot of people that are going to be able to relate really well to a lot of these clients that we have, a lot of our members, and their lifestyle and what they do. And it's like, oh my gosh, I totally get what this person's doing, and I'm probably going to help you connect. Like, hey, you need to go follow this chick on social media because she's going to walk you through everything that you're doing wrong, that she's already did wrong, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So a lot of cool stuff up and coming, and once again, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. This is fun for us. We enjoy doing this. Boom. Yeah, it's all good stuff. Good news, we are now officially available on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. That was pretty cool to see. Makes you feel like a bigwig, doesn't it? Yeah.
I guess.
It's all right. It's cool. So feel free to go check us out on those platforms. Obviously, if you haven't already done the like and subscribe stuff to all of our others, you guys know the deal. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that kind of stuff. Right on, guys. This is the Silver Bullet Podcast.